Today we're reviewing the Wosports spotting scope provided by the folks at Wosport. And what's amazing about this is it's available on Amazon for only $53, and it's 15 to 45 power. You can see that the initial impression is really quite favorable. It has a nice fit and finish to it. It has a lens cap in the front, lens cap in the rear, and they fit nice and tight, and they seem like they're made out of nice pliable rubber instead of hard plastic. It's got a lens hood that extends out here and an eyepiece adjustment. And what I'm mostly going to use it for is digiscoping with the smartphone. So in that case, you want this down as low as possible so that your phone is as close to the lens as possible. And then here's the adjustment from 15 power to 45 power. And your focus ring right here, and the focus ring has a nice solid feel to it. It's light and compact, and overall the fit and finish and everything are quite impressive. Here's where you attach the little tripod that comes with it. And you know, the tripod is fairly heavy and solid, which is what you want. It's nothing fancy, but it's solid, and I've used it and it does a good job. And of course you can mount this on a large tripod too. The other part that's most important to me is it comes with the phone adapter for digiscoping. And I'll go into a lot of detail about that shortly. This seems to be well made and strong, which is important because sometimes they'll break. But the distance here runs from about below is about 2 1/4 out to almost 3.5 inches. So obviously it easily handles the older phones, and I'm using a Droid Turbo 2, and it fits with room to spare. It also has a real strong spring in it, so it fits the phone really tight. And the other thing is that it fits really tightly to the eyepiece. So the way the digiscoping adapter works is you put this on the eyepiece and you put your phone in here and adjust that. And I'll go into detail of that in a minute. But overall, initially, I'm very impressed with the fit and finish, especially for a item that costs $53. And it's got a nice feel to it, nice weight, easy to carry around. It also comes with a nice carrying case that all this fits inside. When you put your phone in the adapter, like that, you want to make sure you're not pushing on the buttons here. So on my phone, I put it just as far as I can without touching the volume buttons. And then over here on this side, you get it as close as you can to line it up on the lens. And this particular one just happens to fit my Droid Turbo 2 about perfectly. Now what I do is I don't make it super tight, because once I've got a pretty good first lineup on here. Then when I put it on the scope, I'll make some final adjustments. I've got the spotting scope solidly on the tripod, and then simply attach the phone adapter to the eyepiece. And this is critical right here. You want to look, you can look at it, you can kind of see, you want to get that on there as tight and straight as possible. And it really does go on tight, which is a good thing. You want it to really seat down there hard and tight, because you want to get as tight of and close of a connection between the phone and the eyepiece as you can. I recommend using open camera. And you can see right there at the initial lineup looks pretty good. Now the other thing about open camera is it has on a level in there, so you can kind of see right now I've got it pretty close to level, so you can adjust your phone position to level. Digiscoping is simply the practice of attaching a camera or a smartphone the spotting scope and then using it as a viewer or to take pictures or record. Now here I've done the initial setup. And your biggest challenge when it comes to digiscoping is going to be get your camera as centered as possible so you get a perfect circle. I've almost got a perfect circle there. I could fiddle with a little bit more. And there's no point in me doing that now because each phone is a little bit different. The one thing you notice is when you're using the digiscope, see I'm on a table here, right? If I even just touch the table with my finger, you'll see vibration. So that's the big challenge with digiscoping, is get a good fit to your camera and get a good solid base, steady base to work from. So now we're looking at, now one of the reasons that, I don't know, whatever camera you have on your phone, the Droid Turbo 2 of mine is about 3 years old, but it has a really outstanding camera, and especially the video is outstanding. So even though it's 3 years old, the camera is still pretty up to date. Some of the older ones, I mean, it's going to depend on the resolution of your phone. If you're using an older smartphone with less than 20 megapixels and a lot of features, it's going to affect your results. But most people are going to be using sort of the latest smartphone within the last few years, and they're going to have a quite sufficient camera to come with them. But the software is a big difference. So what this is the open camera software. What's nice about this, it's free on on Apple or Google Store, and there's no ads. And the important thing about this is once you launch this, your screen stays live and active all the time. The screen doesn't go to sleep. That's what you want. And again, you see that you get a horizon here so you can adjust it. I'm a little bit off of level, but that just depends on where you're at. And the other thing is there's a whole range of setup features that you can set up in here to make it work. But the most important thing for me is that the important features are right here on the screen. So with the open camera software running, you've got pretty much complete control of your phone's camera without it going to sleep. And of course I'm shooting through a window and a screen here, so it's not important what's on the screen, but I want to do the functions. Now that I've got an almost perfect circle here, the way to fill up the screen is to zoom in. On my particular phone, it's about a little over 2 times. And you don't really want to zoom in too much anyway. Right now I'm zoomed in at 2.19%. This is another nice feature of open cameras. You can easily adjust your camera's zoom while you're have it attached to your scope and see exactly what you're going to see. And then when you touch, wherever you touch the screen is where the focus and the exposure is going to be set by your phone. So I'll show you some examples of that later when we're looking at birds. And you can also easily make minor adjustments to your exposure here by either increasing or decreasing your exposure, making it brighter or darker, but you got to be a little bit careful. You'll just have to experiment with that. But once you get your exposure and everything the way you like it, you can just go up here and lock it down. So if you're waiting for a bird to go to a specific spot, that's what you can do. And then of course, obviously, this is for taking a picture. And when you go to video, you just go back to about 2.19 and you take a video. So, I really recommend using something like open camera software when you're using this scope. It'll just make it so much easier. And the other thing that you want to think about too is, I do a lot of video, so it's not that critical. Once the screen's going to vibrate when I touch it to start the video, but after that the screen's going to stay steady. But if you're doing mostly photography, you're going to need a way to remotely trigger the camera so that you don't always have a blurry, vibration and a blur every time you take a picture. So this has a nice feature here where you can push this button, cheese, and it'll take a picture. Now, that's not going to work so good if you're trying to get a bird. So what I recommend, if you're really going to do a lot of photography, is they're really cheap on Amazon. They're like a couple bucks. They're basically a Bluetooth shutter, remote shutter release. So you just hook that up, and you can just sit here and fire off pictures at will with your remote shutter. And the open camera also has a nice burst mode. When you take it apart, it fits really nicely here, real tight. What you want to do is not try and take it off out here, put a pressure out here, trying to remove this eyepiece. You want to just kind of go in here and get it right on from around the edge here, because obviously if you're prying on this side of it, you're going to eventually break it or stretch it or something like that. So, I mean, that's pretty common sense thing. So, just to kind of sum up where we are inside here is that I really like the fit and finish of the Wosport spotting scope that they provided me to test out. I mean, think about it, you're talking about something that's $53 on Amazon, which is pretty amazing, because like anything with optics in it, the price can go from really cheap to super expensive. And this is down in the low end of the affordable range at $53. And it's really pretty impressive. What you'll see when I show you a number of examples, especially if you just, if you just want to get started in doing some photography or video of birds or animals or any other thing that you want to zoom in at long range. You can't go wrong with starting at this price point and really getting used to it, and see if you really like it. Then you can, as time goes on, you can upgrade to more and more expensive things, and you'll get incrementally better quality of shots. But at this price range, it's pretty amazing, really, that the quality that it produces.
All of the bird video examples shown here were actually taken in very cloudy, in fact rainy conditions up in the Great Smoky Mountains. And actually that's fairly remarkable for a low-priced spotting scope like this. It's a fairly bright scope. Light conditions have a big impact on your viewing in a spotting scope. The more you zoom in, the less light that gets into the scope and into your the video. So it's pretty remarkable that I was able to make these videos with this much brightness, color depth under really cloudy and even rainy conditions. So if you were taking a video in sunny conditions, you would have even much better results. Back in Florida, I did a test of the long-range capability of the spotting scope. This tree branch is approximately 60 yards away from the camera. So the equivalent magnification on the spotting scope and the Canon SX60 is 169 times. You can see roughly the same area and roughly the same quality. Now at the optical limit of the 69, you can see that's the area. Once you go beyond the optical zoom distance into digital zoom, it gets a little bit blurrier. But we've also got a digital zoom factor in the spotting scope because we've zoomed in a little over 2 times on the cell phone, which introduces some distortion. But it's pretty impressive for $60 and using your cell phone.